probably the sexiest speaker that I have ever seen. All right, so if you've been following along in our Discord, you would know that when we went to Expona last year, as well as Pacific Audio Fest, we kind of got introduced to this audio group Denmark and these guys over at Next Level Hi-Fi, who were kind of the United States distributor, or one of them, for the audio group Denmark stuff. They make a wide variety of products, from amplifiers to integrateds to DACs to power supply units to cabling, speakers. Basically, they have a few different kind of companies within this audio group Denmark that make really, really cool gear. Some of their flagship speakers, like the M3 and some of the bigger ones, they're coming in at $250,000, $500,000 for these speakers, and $20, $30, $40, $50, $60,000 for these integrated and these amps and stuff like that. And it's just mind-bending sound, like best in show. And one of the cool things was, it was always like, well, that's not going to be accessible to a lot of us audiophiles. And they told me, shh, we're going to have some budget stuff come out to make this audio group Denmark, this Borison sound, kind of available to a wider array of audiophiles. And they did. They came out with the Axis line, which consists of a Forte 1, Forte 2, and Forte 3, an all-in-one, basically, streamer integrated amplifier, set it and forget it, one box. The Forte 1 comes in at $5,500. Then you got the Forte 2, and the Forte 3 maxes out at about $11,000, I believe. And then their speaker line, you have the X6, the X3, and the X2, basically just kind of representing how many drivers are in there. I'll put pictures of all that stuff up as we go through this. We talked to them at Pacific Audio Fest, and they agreed to send us the X2 towers for review, as well as the Forte 3 integrated amplifier. And we have spent about the last month or so with these speakers, and they are just absolutely phenomenal. All right, so let's just get right into it. The Borison X2 that we got in for review, the specifications, I'll run them to you right here. It's about 4 feet tall, very deep speaker you saw from the photos. They're like 80 or 90 pounds, these speakers, man. They are a force to be reckoned with. The trippy thing is they're kind of narrow on the front. So when you're sitting and looking at them in the front view, they look kind of skinny. But when you get up and you look at them, the depth is massive. These things are super deep, and they're just tall, they're beefy, they're dense cabinets, and they're just pretty overwhelming. Frequency response, 40 hertz to 50 kilohertz. I think, honestly, they dig way. That's got to be super conservative, man. The bass that comes out of these things is friggin' superb. Awesome bass. Plenty of it, impactful, tight, clean. I think it goes well below 40 hertz, but that's what they're telling you. 88 dB sensitivity they're claiming. I would agree with that. I think that's right there. Just kind of moving from some different speakers that I run, that 88 dB is probably pretty close. Recommended 50 watt amplifier. That's probably pushing the low end, but it will work in that capacity. We ran some kind of lower watt amps to it, 100, 150, 200, and it handled it plenty with that 88 dB sensitivity. It's not the lowest sensitivity speaker, so it will run on just a little bit of power. You'll notice in the X2s, it's got that planar ribbon tweeter. That thing is fantastic. Very transparent, very resolving, but it doesn't have a lot of sibilance. I wouldn't call this speaker kind of overly bright or forward in that way. That planar ribbon tweeter was actually kind of nice and sweet. I really liked the musicality of it, and it really, really performed well. Let's see, the mid-range driver, 4.5-inch mid-range driver, and they run 2 of those, and I believe they're kind of tuned a little bit differently. And the thing about the Borison, just kind of overall on that tower, especially with the Axis Forte, and we'll get into that guy, pure performance bass. the articulation, the snap, the detail, the attack, the fastness, the quickness, the dynamic ability of these speakers, these Borison X2, was absolutely excellent. You can tell that it is a 100% performance-based experience, and that's exactly what they bring to the table. They image fantastically, wide, deep, tall soundstage, projects into the room, depth behind the speaker. The soundstage is very good on these things, and that's kind of one of the things that I remember from seeing them at the show, was like you stand there and you get this Borison experience, and that imaging and that projection is just second to none. They like a really wide stance. If you look at some of the pictures, and I'll show a couple here of it set up in my room, they like to be 8-9 feet apart and towed in pretty well, right, kind of on axis to the outside of you a little bit. We even messed with crossing them over just a little bit in front of us. So they like a nice wide stance, a close listening position, getting up to those speakers, and really kind of experiencing that soundstage and what they bring to the table. So that's kind of the Borison X3 tower. Very, very impressive. I think the Borison X2, sorry, there's so many lines. The Borison X2, I think that comes in at $8,800, and then they run up from there. The X3, I think, comes in right at around 10,000-ish something, and then the X6 obviously is going to be more. Fantastic speaker. The one thing that I was worried about when we went to the show, if you guys are thinking about, well, I really don't know if I want the access gear, or maybe I want to do some integrated stuff. I got my other stuff already. I just am interested in these speakers. We really were concerned that maybe you had to have the Access Forte stuff to make this speaker actually like come to life and shine. And while I will say pairing it with the Access Forte 3 was the most magic that we experienced with that speaker, but we put stuff like the PrimaLuna DiaLouge Premium Tube Amplifier on it. We put the NAD M33 all-in-one integrated amplifier on it. We put the Audiophile SDA 200 integrated amplifier on it, which all come in around about the $5,000–6,000 range. We put the new PrimaLuna Floyd Hybrid on these speakers. We put the Orchard Audio, Class D GAN amplifiers on this thing. Absolutely blended well, lots of synergy. They allowed that stuff to come through, the profile and the signature of the gear that we were pairing it with was able to come through this speaker. That planar ribbon tweeter really let things shine through. So I will say this, ideally, stick with that in-house synergy that Audio Group Denmark has. Get the Access Forte and put it with these speakers, and keep that nucleus, that network of all that kind of synergy together. But if you can't, if that's not what you want to do, don't be afraid. These speakers do play nice and pair well with a wide variety of gear. Okay, so let's jump into the Access Forte 3, which we had, comes in at $11,000, fully integrated all-in-one amplifier. You got your preamp, you got your amp, you got your streamer, you got your DAC, you got all of your integrations in one box. Connect it to Roon. I mean, they've got a standalone app that works really fantastic. Looking at the Access Forte 3, you've got your Toslink, you've got your SPDIF, you've got your USB, you've got a preamplifier out, you've got your speaker out, you've got a headphone quarter-inch jack that worked really well, sounded great. You've got your LAN network cable, so you can plug right into this. You're ready to rock and roll. You've got USB in there, and then you've got a HDD capacity of 2 terabytes on this thing. And the output power of this it's a modest 2 channel, 100 watts into 8 ohms. I did not in any instance feel like we were lacking on this thing. And then the other thing that you're going to get is all of the Forte 1, Forte 2, and Forte 3 are essentially the same unit when it comes to preamp, amp, streamer, and DAC. What you get is you get a jump up the line. You can check all this stuff out on their website. They have all of this noise reducing technology, these Tesla coils, these copper platings, and all of this technology that's integrated into these amplifiers, these all-in-one amplifiers that basically reduce noise. And we all know that when you can reduce noise, you increase your resolution, the ability to be able to resolve the details in the soundstage, and it just overall leads to a better performance. So we didn't have the Forte 1 in for review. We just had the Forte 3. They just sent us the top tier one. And it was absolutely a stunner. Probably one of the greatest experiences. We actually brought it over to Kelly's house and auditioned his gear with the Forte 3, and he literally said, best sound I've ever heard in my entire life. So that's a pretty big statement coming from Kelly, because we've heard some pretty good gear this year. And listening to it at our house, in my listening room here, I brought it upstairs in this listening room. We listened to it in the main listening room, and I agree with him. It was probably some of the best performance, detail, resolution, bass, just overall, probably the best I had ever heard, you know. And at $11,000, you think that's going to be a high price, but if you break that down categorically into your what you're going to pay for a preamp, what you're going to pay for an amplifier, what you're going to pay for a streamer, what you're going to pay for a DAC, right? What you're going to pay for to build all of that stuff, you would be really, really hard pressed to do that and get this performance and synergy out of a unit. So the only reason I don't have the Borison and stuff up here in the backdrop for this video is just because they're so freaking heavy. I did not want to get them up here into the studio. So they are downstairs in the main listening room. But yeah, you put those two things together, that Forte 3 and those Borison X2s, and you are in a world of absolute performance to the umpteenth degree. All right, well, hey, I hope you guys enjoyed that video, that review, that rundown. If you did not know, Next Level Hi-Fi, reach out to Josh and them guys over at Next Level Hi-Fi, because they run package deals where you can pick your Forte, you could pick your X series of speaker, and then they come with, like, I don't know, $3,000 or $4,000 in like cabling, and they make kind of a discounted price. So if you're thinking about getting into something like this, this is absolutely end game level for a lot of individuals. I mean, if you're thinking about spending 15 to 20 grand on a stereo system and you just want to be done and have one of the sexiest, most simple systems, I've been reviewing a lot of all-in-one integrated kind of amplifiers these days, and that one box solution with a set of speakers, run a power cable to it and some speaker wires, it all comes with that. Man, that is a intense proposition. And when you can get that manufacturer synergy from Audio Group Denmark that works with all of these different components to ensure that everything just has this synergy and flow, man, that's hard to beat. So anyway, huge shout out to Audio Group Denmark for you know, just letting us have this equipment in, creating this kind of entry level tier so that some of us can get into this space. Huge shout out to the guys over at Next Level Hi-Fi for actually taking time to reach out to the small guy and help us with kind of getting exposure for our charity and the work that we're doing, and just spending the money to send these crazy speakers and you know, components to us. Thank you guys, I appreciate it. If you guys did not know, we are the world's only 100% nonprofit audio reviewers. 100% of the revenue that we generate from everything we do goes to youth musical programs that focus on mentorship through musical creation. Over $5,000 donated last year. We're getting ready right now to make a $2,000, our first donation of this year, $2,000 donation to another great musical program. And jump in the Discord, check all the stuff out in the links below. Come hang out with us in Discord. Get over to our Patreon. You know, press that $4, $5, $6, $8 a month. Help us support the cause and raise money for community and charity. You know, if our youth aren't creating the music, we don't have anything. So I'm James, your ABX audiophile. I appreciate you watching the show today, and we'll see you on the next one.